Good morning again. Kids are all leaving. They've heard the talk. They don't want to hear it again. No. They're going to prepare a wonderful feast for us, so. Fly. So good morning. We're working on the theme today of nature, as you might have figured out. And this year we've been exploring the whole idea of creating a world that works for all. And so we see a world. This is the part of the Global Heart Vision. We see a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. Renewing its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson said, what would it be like if we taught empathy as well as reading, writing, and arithmetic in our schools? If we taught empathy. I was talking with a gentleman from the first service who said, you know, in Denmark they actually have a once-a-week time in the schools for kids to get together and to experience that empathy, to just simply talk about things. You know, here we teach bullying, and well, we don't really, well, we sort of do teach it because that's what shows up, you know, but what would it be like if we had empathy and practiced that and taught the heart instead of just the left brain and just the intellect? So an idea for us to hold into. Dr. Hans Selye, who is one of the early pioneers in stress reduction, said, the capacity to contemplate the harmonious elegance in nature's manifestations is one of the most satisfactory experiences of which man is capable. Looking at something infinitely greater than our conscious selves makes all our daily troubles appear to shrink by comparison. There's an equanimity and a peace of mind which can be achieved only through contact with the sublime. Have you ever spent time in nature and just noticed that all of a sudden, whatever big problems you had weren't so big anymore? They kind of, you know, didn't take on the relevance. You know, sometimes when I think about, you know, a comparison of the age of the Earth has been, if you put the Earth on a football field, the amount of time that we've been here for a timeline, on one goal is the beginning of the Earth, and on the other goal is where we are at the present moment, okay? Our life from caveman to now would be the thickness of a blade of grass on that football field. Think about that for a moment. So all this stuff we get so wrapped up in is just the tiniest little molecule, subatomic particle of a blade of grass. How significant are our problems? You know, one of the things I've learned is how important will this be in 10 years from now or 100 years from now? Good question to ask myself when I'm wrapped up into something, especially when I feel the need to be right about something, right? It's like, how important is this going to be 100 years from now? And the truth is, in most cases, not very, right? I mean, 100 years from now, I'm sorry, but both Hillary and Donald and Bernie will all be kind of just blips in history that somebody reads about and says, oh yeah, that was quite a time back there, wasn't it? You know, all that. So can we put it in perspective? There's a wonderful way of saying, rather than telling God how big your problem is, tell your problem how big your God is. And when I stand in nature, when I witness that, when I experience that, it starts to shift me away from how big my problem is, and I start to get the expansiveness of nature. I used to say nature is my church. I remember the first time I ever got invited to a religious science church was in Bishop, California. And I said, no, I came here to go hiking. Nature is my church. Thank you very much. Nature had other plans for me that day, and I ended up in that religious science church. Loved it so much it took me 5 years to get to the next one, but now I'm a minister here. But nature is my church. It was this place of great peace and great connection with something greater. And some of my best memories are time spent in nature. And I bet you have those memories also, right? Yes? You know, I remember early mornings in the Mojave Desert, the Anza Borrego Desert. I remember hiking in woods. I remember standing on oceans from Maine to California, to Southern California, to Mexico, all over the place. Just all of that, where we really get in touch with the expansiveness of the universe. The other night I had the joy of sitting with Holly and Harry and their neighbor Dean watching the stars, watching the meteor shower And unlike some friends of mine who were apparently on foam mattresses in the back of a pickup feeling uncomfortable, we have these wonderful, those anti-gravity chairs. And so we're just perched back, we've got blankets on, and we're just listening to the crickets and watching the stars go by. And it was so powerful, it was so beautiful, and it got us so in touch with nature. At one point somebody said something, and the neighbor, Dean, pulled up a song from his iPad and played the song. It was an appropriate song for it. And he said, "What do you want to hear next?" And we all said, "Nothing. We want to listen to the crickets. You know, we want to listen to the peace of this." And so do we spend time in nature listening to that peace? Do we spend time doing that? When I was watching the stars, it reminded me of a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's why I was looking him up earlier. And he says, "I look up at the night sky, and I know that, yes, we are part of this universe. We are in this universe. But perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. The universe is in us." When I reflect on that fact, I look up. Many people feel small because they're small and the universe is big. But I feel big because my atoms came from those stars. Your atoms, my atoms, came from those stars. He also says, not only do we live among the stars live within us. Breathe that in for a moment. You are stardust. Most of us want to be a star or meet a star someday. Look at the person next to you. There's a star. Look at yourself. You're a star. Each of us is that already. So breathe that in for a moment. You know, being in nature returns us to our awareness of our own true nature. It brings us back to who we truly are. We and the earth are not apart. We are a part of the earth. It grew us. You and I belong here. Just like it grew the plants and the rocks and the animals and the trees, it grew us. It grew us. We're not aliens landed on here from someplace else. And even if we were, we'd still be part of the universe, wouldn't we? We grew somewhere. Okay, I know there's people out there who have theories of aliens landed and seeded, whatever. Okay? Still, we're part of this earth and we're part of this solar system and we're part of this entire universe. We didn't come from outside of it. So we are part of this. We are one with this. When we sit and contemplate that, it brings us back into a balance and a harmony. You've noticed that, yes? When you contemplate the stars, when you contemplate the earth, when you stand by the ocean, when you sit on a rock in a stream, you have that connection, that deep connection. You know, I've noticed, I probably shouldn't talk about this, but I will, that I've noticed that I have this desire sometimes when I'm private and in nature to not have any clothing on. I got criticized on that one time and told I shouldn't, as a minister, say that. And then I was listening to a CD of Michael Beckwith, who's one of the premier, ministers in the New Thought movement, who says, he's talking about the oneness experience, the fourth kingdom consciousness. And he says, and I was having this oneness experience with nature one day, and he says, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but I took off all my clothes and laid in the grass. It's like, this is not an uncommon thing. And what I look at it is it's our desire to truly be connected, to have all the barriers, all the civilization removed for a little bit, to just step into that nature, to really truly experience it with our skin, with our senses, with all of who we are. We're here for freedom. Ernest Holmes says the divine plan for us is freedom. It's the only divine plan. If you want to know what the divine plan for you is, what's God's plan for you? A lot of people get in, what's God's plan for me? Freedom. After that, you get to make the rest up. Okay? And so when we experience that being in nature, free of all which has kept us bound in the past, or all that has separated us, it's a way of being that. It's like when you look in a person's eyes and really look deeply, I think you've had that in your song, into a person's eyes, and you start to see the soul of that person. Suddenly all the other stuff dissolves away, all the properness, all the civilization, all the, well, should I or should I not? And we start to open up to each other. Part of that is what falling in love is about. It's two people who sit there and look at each other instead of being proper, truly fall in love with each other. They move past the rules and the regulations and how we should behave, and the heart's open. The heart's open. So nature is a heart-opening experience. Since I'm on a David White kick today, okay? Can I just admit that? The poet. He has this wonderful, another poem called Song for the Salmon. For too many days now, I have not written of the sea, nor the rivers, nor the shifting currents we find between the islands. For too many nights now, I have not imagined the salmon threading the dark streams of reflected stars, nor have I dreamt of his longing, nor the life swing of his tail toward dawn. I have not given myself to the depth to which he goes, to the cargoes of crystal water, cold with salt, nor the enormous plains of ocean swaying beneath the moon. I have not felt the lifted arms of the ocean opening its white hands on the seashore, nor the salted wind, whole and healthy, filling out the chest with living air. I have not heard those waves fallen out of heaven onto earth, nor the tumult of sound and the satisfaction of 1,000 miles of ocean giving up its strength on the sand. But now I have spoken of that great sea. The ocean of longing shifts through me. The blessed inner star of navigation moves in the sky dark above, and I am ready, like the young salmon, to leave his river, blessed with hunger, for a great journey on the drawing tide. Blessed with hunger for a great journey on the drawing tide. I love that Genevieve was talking about our fear of change, because we simultaneously hear this call, don't we? This desire to ride that tide, to be that. We hear that call. And at the same time, we sit there and go, yeah, but it's so comfortable here. It's so comfortable here. I want to stay. And so the question is, are we willing to move? Are we willing to shift? Are we willing to allow ourselves to follow that call to rise on that tide? So I want to invite us this morning to have an experience of nature. Willing to do that? Want to play with that a little bit? We're going to do a guided meditation, kind of go within and have an experience of that. So Damien's going to cue up a little bit of music for this. I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and settle into your chair and just get really deeply relaxed. If you feel comfortable, gently close your eyes. Feel yourself fully supported in the chair. Just feel the joy and the laughter moving through. Taking another deep breath. Allowing yourself to just relax. I'm going to invite you now to find in your imagination a path that leads from right here, right where you are, to that which you may call your sacred space. A place of deep sanctity, a place of wisdom, a place of deep love, where you feel absolutely relaxed and empowered. And let yourself arrive in that sacred space now. Breathe in the fresh air there. Notice the sounds, the smells. Notice what it looks like. And take another deep breath in this beautiful sacred space. In the middle of that sacred space, notice that there's a portal, a doorway, a gateway that will take you somewhere. And where this portal leads is to a place deep, deep in nature, in pure, pristine, untouched nature. And so let yourself now step through this portal, through this gateway. And you find yourself now standing in a beautiful place in nature, deep in the natural world. You allow yourself to be aware as your authentic self of your being in this nature. This place where you have landed is a place of guidance and a place of wisdom. You notice your feet on the ground. You notice the sounds and the scents in the air. You look around and see what it looks like. You reach out and touch something and notice what it feels like. And you breathe in that beautiful fresh air. And now imagine that a guide has shown you up to support you in a journey in this nature. And this guide is in the form of an animal. It could be that salmon that we were just talking about. It might be a bird that soars high in the sky. It could be a powerful bear, a beautiful leaping deer, whatever it is for you. Allow your animal to show up for you. Be aware as you look at this animal that it and you are one. There is no separation. This animal guide is going to help you to find your deep soul call. And so you begin to follow this animal guide. It leads you to a high place, a high clearing, where you can look out all around you. Allow yourself to arrive in that place. And as you look around you, what you see laid out in front of you is your life. Your life. You see the past of it, you see the present of it, and you see the future of it. Your life. And now imagine that from this high place you can look with the piercing eyes, perhaps of a hawk or an owl that can see so deeply and so far. And you look past the past of this lifetime. You look beyond your past. You look through it and beyond it. To that moment when you first decided to take form on this planet in this lifetime. And you see that moment clearly. And as you see it, you experience and remember your original intention for taking this life. You move past and see past all the forgetting, all the fog, and see clearly the reason I chose to be here. And you rest with that for a moment. You let that remembrance just simply sink in. And now you begin to move from the past back to this high spot, this high place. You allow your attention to move to the present. And imagine yourself now diving underneath the present, like a deep water fish. Diving below what presents on the surface as the present. And going deep beneath that. And listening. listening to the whale song that calls through the ocean. The song of what deeply wants to be known about the present, my present, right now. The song that is singing right in my present life. I hear it. Let that song be your song. What is it that wants to be known right now in your life? As you become aware of that, you allow yourself to float back to the surface. And then once again to rise up in the air, as if on the wings of an eagle, soaring ever higher and ever higher, you look at your future. Again, with the piercing vision of the eagle, the sharp eyes. And aware of your intention with which you came into your life, aware of that which is calling you in the present moment, you look at the future and see what it is that is yours to do to fulfill this intention in your life. What is mine to be? What is mine to do? You contemplate these questions from high, high above that future, recognizing this future is still unfolding and you get to direct it. Wherever you thought your future might be small and limited, you rise above that and allow the full power of who you are to begin to see and be willing to create that future. What is it that is calling me? What is mine to do? To be complete with this intention for this life. As you take that in, as you let that settle in, you begin to return now, circling ever downward back to that high place, landing gently. You find your guide, your animal guide, there sitting beside you. And you ask your guide to share its wisdom with you. And you listen for that wisdom. You listen to that deep wisdom, and you take it in. And now your guide begins to lead you back down from that high place, back to where you entered. You again breathe that beautiful fresh air, enriched by this time in nature. You thank your guide, knowing that you can return and connect with this guide anytime you want. You find the portal through which you came, and you step back through that portal, back to that gateway, returning to your sacred space. You look around that space once again. Notice if anything has changed. You become aware of not only the sights, but also the sounds and the smells. You take in all that you've learned, all that has happened as you have walked through that portal. You let it be. You let it settle within. And when you're ready, you very gently begin to depart your sacred space, knowing that you can return to this space anytime you want. And you find yourself on the path that leads you back here. You gently walk that path until you return fully to your body, sitting in its chair here in the Center for Spiritual Living in Redding, California, planet Earth. You allow yourself to be fully present back in your body, back in this chair. Taking a deep breath, wiggle your fingers and toes, perhaps roll your shoulders, ground yourself fully back into your body. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and being fully present back here. It's been said that our mind can't tell the difference between a real experience and a deeply imagined experience. If you're stuck in wanting a nature break and you can't run off, you can visualize it, you can imagine it, you can immerse yourself into it sensorily, using all of your senses. So this week I want to invite us to play with two spiritual practices. The first one is to spend quality time in nature. Spend some quality time in nature. Spend some time listening and seeing. You know, it's wonderful to go out, say, to the lake and take a boat across the lake or to go hiking and get active. But take some time when you're in nature to just simply be and be present with what's going on. I remember years ago I was sitting on a coastal plain off of Morro Bay, and a friend of mine who was a Native American basically called me over and she said, "Watch, be still." And I watched as these three little animals, a mouse, a bird, and I forget what the third one was, but another small animal, were running from bush to bush, and each one would go for, a rabbit, that was the third one. The mouse would go, and if the mouse made it, because there was hawks circling overhead, if the mouse made it, then the rabbit would go to that bush that the mouse had just vacated, and then the small bird would hop over to that next bush. And they made their way across this whole seascape, if you will, this whole landscape, that same way, each one a little bit at a time, watching them working together in nature. And it was amazing just simply be still and watch that. And so I invite you this week to spend some time in nature in which you're simply still and paying attention and letting yourself be renewed. And when you're there, become aware that you in that nature, you and what you are experiencing are one. Are one. There's no separation. That beauty, that elegance, that is you. So that's the first spiritual practice, is spend some quality time in nature this week. And don't we live in a beautiful place where it's so easy to get into nature? This is such a lovely place for that. We could be sitting here in a church in New York City and it's like, oh my God, where do I experience nature, you know? Secondly, let yourself experience the world differently. The first service I said Cynthia and I were watching a TV program on dogs. She reminded me that she was watching the program on dogs. I was off in the kitchen, but I overheard this comment. And that is, when a dog walks into a room, when a human walks into a room, we look around the room. We take it in visually. When a dog walks into the room, they smell their way through the room. They take it in through their smell, their olfactory nerves. They smell it. This week I invite you to perceive your world using a different sense than your primary sense. Close your eyes and listen or smell sometime where you're someplace. Now if you're in a bakery, smelling is a really good way to perceive it. You just close your eyes and breathe in. But I invite you in nature to start to perceive around you with a little bit different way of perceiving. Play with that. Have fun with that. So that's our two practices this week, is spend quality time in nature and spend some time perceiving in a little bit different way than you normally would. You willing to play with that this week? It's a fun assignment, right? Yeah. So let it refresh you. I want to close as we open with a poem, a part of a poem from David Whyte. You, one more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. Got that? You, one more member of the prison population, that's when we forget, that's our forgettingness, whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. You are the one for whom the gift was made. You are the one for whom the gift was made. Keep that look in your eyes, and you'll gladly grow tired of your reflection. There for all to see, the well of stars and the great night from which you were born. Each of us was born of starlight. Each of us is stardust in form. Each of us is not only in the universe, but the universe is within us. I want you to remember that this week as you go forward and have a beautiful time with that. Let's move into prayer. And so taking a deep breath, I open to that awareness of that vast, whatever is beyond us, whatever is greater than us. That infinite presence, and whether we call it Spirit, Tao, Father, Mother, God, nature, whatever name we give it, it is beyond the names. That presence is all there is. It is everything on this planet. It is the solar system in which this planet orbits. It is the sun around which this solar system revolves and orbits. It is the Milky Way, of which our sun is just one star on the edge. It is the billions of galaxies, both known and yet to be known by us. And those galaxies are part of perhaps millions of universes not yet known by us. That infinite presence is all there is. And we are one of it. Each of us is one of this. We are simultaneously so small and so large. We are this infinite presence. We have the power of a million stars living within us. The light of a million stars lighting us. And so I speak my word. We come to realize that. We come to really perceive that. That as we look at the beauty of nature, we see that as the beauty of ourselves. So we look at the vastness of the sky, we see the vastness within us. So we listen to the beautiful flow of the water of a stream, or the sound of the ocean waves. We recognize our own oneness with that, our own flow in this universe. And we allow that then to bless our lives, to bless every single aspect, every single day. And for each of us who allows ourselves to be immersed in that, to be aware of that, I'm ever so grateful. Because as we do so, we lift the consciousness of this planet to the place where it should be, where it needs to be, where it deserves to be. We open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our beings to this infinite nature. And for this I'm grateful. I release this word, this call, into that which we call the law, that process of unfolding, that process within us and within the universe that knows how to manifest this in, through, and as our lives here and now. And we say yes to that law and affirm that it is already working in our lives by saying together, and so it is.